Hello, this week's video is about pronouns. You use pronouns all the time. In fact, I just used one when I said you, because that's one of the most common pronouns and one that we use all the time. They're all over the place and you use them without much thought. That's a pronoun there, the word they, referring to something which we don't want to name. Not because it's a secret, but probably because we just don't want to repeat ourselves all the time. If I kept saying pronoun, 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 pronoun all the time, it would be repetitive and boring. So we use words like they or it to stand in place of names that we've already used once and which we don't want to use again. This is a list of all the pronouns, and you can see that they have specialized names, which are actually very simple to learn. The easiest one, the place to start, is the words which we use to stand in place of ourselves. So if I'm talking about myself, then I will refer to myself usually as I or me. If something belongs to me, I might describe it using the word my, or if I want to refer to it and not name it, I might say mine. But I and me are the words I'd like to begin with. These are first person pronouns. Now, when I think about first-person pronouns, I think of myself as the first person. Okay, so sometimes think of myself perhaps standing in a little circle, and that's me. Now, if I'm going to have a conversation with somebody else, and I'm talking directly to them, then I wouldn't call them by name all the time. If your friend's name was Fred, they would pretty soon get sick of you calling them Fred all the time. Hello Fred, how are you Fred? It's nice to see you Fred. Did you have a nice time at the cinema Fred? Would you like an apple Fred? It would get old very quickly and the conversation would be very tiresome. What you tend to do is that second person tends to become you in conversation. So when I talk to Fred, I don't call him Fred, I call him you. That's only when I'm talking to him that he becomes you. Now let's say I'm talking to Fred and we're having a conversation, I am me, and when I speak to Fred, I refer to Fred as you. And we see out of the corner of our eye there's somebody else that we want to talk about. And if it's a man or a boy, then we might use the third person and refer to that person as him. So I am the first person. You are the second person, and anybody else around is the third person. And the only way that these vary is sometimes we're talking about groups of people instead of one at a time, in which case you would use plurals. So you might say first person plural, we, or you might use second person plural, you. So if you're speaking to a group of people, you could still say, has one of you lost your shoes? And you'd be speaking to all of them at the same time. Third person plural is again if you are pointing over at some group of people and you refer to them as they or them. So those are the pronouns. I'll get back down in the corner where I belong. And this is how they work. Mr. Beavis was happy that Mr. Beavis had the day off. Boring, boring, boring. Mr. Beavis was happy that he had the day off. Goes much more quickly. Here's a little one for you to practice on. I'd like you to have a look at these short sentences and see if you can pick out which words are the personal pronouns. I'm going to pause you for a moment while you have a look at this. You need to hit pause on YouTube as well. And then what I want you to do is to see if you can decide which word in each sentence, sometimes more than one, is a personal pronoun. Well, hopefully you've managed to work it out. These are the correct answers. The words in red are pronouns. And that's it. If you can do that and you've identified them correctly, it would be nice to know that you could also say that this is the first person pronoun I, you is a second, she is a third, we, first person plural for several people, just as us is for several people, and they is third person plural for a group of people. So if you've managed to work that out, you've done well. And that's the end of this video.